Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? That intro is great. Tanuki Dan and Arthur the Last Ancient made that for me. And I love it so much. I never meant for it to go away for as long as it did. I just got tired of the old video and I wanted to update the video. And so I was like, I'm going to pull it down. Gamer Lady Dragon.
I mean, Opto explains it all.
You didn't see the video? I'll play it again for you later, Cinca. We just got done watching it. Holy jeez! Let's go, Clarissa. Explains it. That title is totally original. I didn't take that from Clarissa. She doesn't own that title. She might explain it all, but she doesn't know it all, okay? Thank you so much, Gamer Lady Dragon. Thank you, Gamer Lady Dragon, for the 27 months. Oh my FG, I love you too. Suddenly a random ladder hits the window. Joey! That is not why I named it. I just thought it was a clever title because we're going to be encompassing all knowledge, okay? It's not just gonna be like one genre. It's gonna be all over the place. We're gonna pick different topics. It might be UFOs next week, you don't know, or it could be a serial killer. Or I don't know, maybe the Renaissance if this goes well enough. That's I picked a really big topic for the first episode, and holy shit, there's just so much information. I was going to try my best to tie it all up into like a nice pretty bow. That's not going to happen. So we're going to go through all the stuff that I have. And then after that, we're just going to wing it and just see where the internet takes us. And we'll answer questions. And this whole thing is going to be a quest for knowledge. And I'm excited, dude. Those of you that were here last night, thank you. Thank you for being here last night. Super chill stream. I'm not even gonna lie, I was so stoned. I did not intend to be that blazed, but it was a really chill stream. It just wasn't as energetic as I wanted it to be. But we kicked some ass in Elden Ring. We definitely we beat down some bosses. We had a good time. Your heart rate since I saw you type. What up, Cinca? So tonight is gonna be the Dark Ages. And I've picked some random images. Is my camera like not focusing? I feel it. I feel like I got the man bun going. So and the popped polo collar. Try to get that college Chad look going. There's my full screen. So instead of just making the images ready to go in OBS, we're just gonna cycle through different backgrounds on my desktop. Yeah, dude. No, it's snazzy up top. You guys don't know if I'm wearing pants or not. That's the big thing. You can't see the rest of the ensemble. You can't see the tube socks with the flip-flops, because I think feet is against TOS now. This is my second coffee. All right, so first we got to find some fantasy music to listen to. We really got to get into the spirit. That's not what I wanted at all. Let's go fantasy. How about royalty-free fantasy music? Thank God for YouTube. No shirt, no shoes, no stream. We also couldn't see your other hand for a hot minute, Pogger. Well, at least my shoulder wasn't like, you know what I mean? No, we're good. We're good. We got this. Copyright-free fantasy music. Let's play the full list. Let's go. Ooh, goosebumps already. Let's get into it a little bit more. All right. So the Dark Ages. Gross. Don't look up my nose, you weirdos. Always out there looking up people's noses. looking at to see if they have nose hairs or boogers. That's gross. You shouldn't do that to people. Have some goddamn respect and dignity. I don't know what I'm doing right now. It's a little too intense. We're gonna turn down the intensity just a little bit, and then we're gonna get back to learning. I do remember the hot tub streams. Hot tub streams were a good time. I literally would have my tits out all stream, and that's a freeing feeling. It's good. You get like some wind and some that nice breeze, that cool cross breeze. Reminds me of simpler times. All right, I don't know what I'm looking for here. Okay, yeah, here, notes. All right, it's time to get serious, and you guys are not allowed to laugh at my notes, okay? All right, here we go. The Dark Ages. So I figured we'd start with what were the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages were between the 5th and 14th centuries, lasting 900 years. The timeline falls between the fall of the Roman Empire and the Renaissance. It has been called the Dark Ages because many suggest that this period saw little scientific and cultural advancement. The Dark Ages, or the Middle Ages, or the Migration Period, or the early medieval period of Western European history, specifically 476 through 800 CE. Now that threw me for a loop because I have no idea what the hell CE means. So we're gonna immediately take a left turn here, and we're gonna learn a little bit about the terminology that we're gonna be using here tonight. So the Gregorian Calendar is the global standard for the measurement of dates. Despite originating in the Western Christian tradition, its use has spread throughout the world and now transcends religious, cultural, and linguistic, I almost said linguini, linguistic boundaries. As people are aware, the Gregorian calendar is based on the supposed birth date of Jesus Christ. Subsequent years count up from this event and are accompanied by either AD or CE, while preceding years count down from it and are accompanied by either BC or BCE. So what is the difference between AD and CE and BC and BCE? I'm glad you asked, because we're going to find out. And if they mean the same thing, if so, which do we use? Here's a quick article that I had found. This is all, hold on, let me attribute this. We're going to credit. I got this from the Anecdotes blog. It's an article entitled Language Matters from 2017. And where are we? Did I skip a whole bunch of stuff? Oh, here we go. BC and AD. So the idea to count years from the birth of Jesus Christ. And so I am really interested in just learning like how they got the terminology and stuff and like what some of this stuff means. Cause it's like, you kind of think you have an idea. Like before we get to that, I always thought that AD was Anno Domino, and you know, after the death of Jesus Christ, that was just stuff that I had picked up from hearing stuff when I was a kid. And so now we're going to see if any of that's accurate and what it actually is. So the idea to count the years from the birth of Jesus Christ was first proposed in the year 525 by Dionysius Exiguus, a Christian monk standardized under the Julian and Gregorian calendars. The system spread throughout Europe and the Christian world during the centuries that followed. AD stands for Anno Domini. Okay, it stands for Anno Domini, Latin for in the year of the Lord, while BC stands for before Christ. So I was close on what it was, but not what it actually meant. BCE and CE. CE stands for Common Era or Current Era, while BCE stands for Before the Common or Current Era. These abbreviations have a shorter history than BC and AD. You're gonna be listening. Appreciate it, man. What up, Travis? Oh yeah, I got a sorry to interrupt the monologue. I do have a GoFundMe going. As you guys all know, I started a new job recently, I'm doing like 40 hours plus retail work. There's a lot of downtime, so I've been kind of working on commissions and trying to do video editing and like producing more content while I'm at work. My laptop it is not functional anymore. Like, I can no longer edit videos on it. It's just gone away. So it's not necessary, but if anybody would like to contribute towards that cause, we do have a GoFundMe. It's the first time I've ever used GoFundMe. I just figured that would be easier as far as like seeing where we're at and like allocating funds. So if you guys want to check that out and see the full story, I typed out a little article thing on that, but we're gonna jump right back into this. That music, is the music too intense? Are we going too ham with the music? I feel like the music might be a little much. Is it too much? All right. So CE stands for Common or Current Era. You feel it's a bit loud? Oh no, that was me. I turned my microphone down. Let's turn that down. You feel it's not loud enough? Are you trolling? Travis is trolling. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him trolling. Anyway. All right. So these abbreviations have a shorter history than BC and AD, although they still date from at least the early 1700s. They have been in frequent use by Jewish academics for more than 100 years, but became more widespread in the later part of the 20th century, replacing BC, AD in a number of fields, notably science and academia. So like science and academia people are like, nah, we're gonna use our own like abbreviative measurements. So why have some people adopted BCE CE? An important reason for adopting BCE CE is religious neutrality. Since the Gregorian calendar has superseded other calendars to become the international standard, members of non-Christian groups may object to the explicitly Christian origins of BC and AD. Particularly problematic is AD in the year of our Lord and its unavoidable implication that the Lord in question is Jesus Christ. Religious neutrality was the main rationale behind Jewish academics' adoption of BCE CE over a century ago. So this like happened way long ago. Everybody came to like a solid agreement over 100 years ago. It's most widely cited justification. However, others object to the BC AD system on the basis that it's objectively inaccurate. It's widely accepted that the actual birth of Jesus occurred at least 2 years before 81, and so some argue that explicitly linking years to an erroneous birth date for Jesus is arbitrary or even misleading. BCE avoids this inaccuracy. I can't say that abbreviation, BCE/CE. It's like a droid from Star Wars that you would just forget immediately. Since it does not explicitly refer to the birth of Jesus, removing some of the baggage associated. All right. So I think we can skip ahead a little bit here. So current status and recommendations. Most style guides do not express a preference for one system, although BC/AD still prevails in most journalistic contexts. Conversely, academic and scientific texts tend to use BC/CE, since there are no compelling arguments for each system. Sorry, the song was changing, and so the graphic changed, and I just want to make sure we weren't about to get hit with a commercial. Come on down to Bob's Car Lot. Given the choice, writers are free to apply their own preference. Okay, so the last bit of this that I feel like is kind of important is the way it's positioned. So if it's BC, it's usually after the number. If it's 80, it usually precedes the number, which is weird because like before, after, but they're opposite for like no fucking reason. Does not make sense at all. All right. So let's move back on into the Dark Ages here for a little bit, for a long bit. Okay, and so yeah, again, that article was from the Anecdotes blog, Language Matters 2017. So in the Dark Ages, there was no Roman or Holy Roman Empire in the West, or more generally, the period between 500 and 1000, which was marketed by frequent warfare and a virtual disappearance of urban life. The name of this period refers to the movement of so-called barbarian peoples, including the Huns. So, Attila the Hun and his whole reign. The Goths, the Vandals, the Bulgars, the Alani, the Suebi, the Franks. And I think we should look into some of these people just to kind of get an idea of what these people were like during that age. Into what had been the Western Roman Empire. The term Dark Age is now rarely used by historians because of the value judgment it implies. So it's kind of, so what they were saying is that the Dark Ages are known as the Dark Ages because there was not like a whole lot of scientific or cultural like blossoming there. There wasn't like a whole lot of anything given to the world during this period, and so that's why it was referred to as the Dark Ages. But they're saying that historically now there was a lot that happened during that period, and so they just think that the title is not fitting. Though sometimes taken to derive its meaning from the dearth of information about the period, the term's more usual and pejorative sense is a period of intellectual darkness and barbarity. So let's learn about some of these people. Let's learn about the Huns. 76 through 800. And so it looks like that starts in 456. So, I mean, here we go. What does it say? The Huns may have stimulated the Great Migration, which again, that was that period was called the Migration period, a contributing factor in the collapse of Western Roman Empire, which I do want to talk about them. I did a little bit of research into the fall of the Western Roman Empire. I've got something pulled up over here that's really interesting. So the memory of the Huns also lived on in various Christian saints' lives, where the Huns play the roles of antagonists, as well as the Germanic heroic legend, where the Huns are variously antagonists or allies to the Germanic main figures. In Hungary, a legend developed based on medieval chronicles that the Hungarians and the Svetsky ethnic group in particular are descended from the Huns. However, mainstream scholarship dismisses a close connection between the Hungarians and Huns. Modern culture generally associates the Huns with extreme cruelty and barbarism. Now, that is true, but also I heard... I'm trying to remember what I was listening to. It was a podcast, but they were talking about the Huns, and like 80% of the population today is descended from like some sort of like Hun lineage, which I think is pretty crazy, just because like they pillaged so much. So let's click on the Great Migration. So we'll look at a little bit into the migration period, and then we'll jump into the dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire, which I think is pretty interesting too. So the migration period was a period in European history marked by large-scale migrations that saw the fall of the Western Roman Empire and subsequent settlements of its former territories by various tribes. The term refers to the important role played by migration, invasion, and settlement of various tribes, notably the Franks, Goths, Alemanni, Alans, and Huns. Yeah, we still haven't learned about them, so we're gonna learn about the Franks, Guns. The Franks, the Guns, the Franks, the Goths, the Alemanni, and the Alans. So the Huns were like a nomadic people that just terrorized the countryside and just like conquered as much as they could. So the Franks, Latin Franci or gens Francorum, were a group of Germanic peoples whose name was first mentioned in the 3rd century Roman sources and associated with tribes between the Lower Rhine and the Ems River on the edge of the Roman Empire. Later, the term was associated with Romanized Germanic dynasties with the collapsing Western Roman Empire, who eventually commanded the whole region between the rivers Loire. I don't even know if it's Loire. The river Loire. I think I said that right. And Rhine. They imposed power over many other post-Roman kingdoms and Germanic peoples, beginning with Charlemagne in 800. Frankish rulers were given recognition by the Catholic Church as successors to the old rulers of the Western Empire. So they kind of got in with the Catholic Church after a while. But that was in 800, so that was like coming close to the end of the migration period. So like, what did they do in that time? It just says when they were first So we're skipping stuff. So mythological origins. Oh, come on. Hit me with that mythos. All right. Apart from the history of the Franks by Gregory of Tours, two early sources relate to the mythology origin of the Franks, a 7th century work known as the Chronicle of Fredegar, and the anonymous Liber Histoire Francorum, written a century later. Many say the Franks originally came from Pannonia, which I want to know where that is. We'll come back to that. And first inhabited by the banks of Rhine, they then crossed the river, marched through Thuringia, and then set up each county district and each city long-haired kings. What the fuck? Each county district and each city long-haired kings chosen from their foremost and noble family. So they just like lived on the banks of the river. They crossed the river, and then some kings were like, yeah, you guys are going to be part of our noble family now. Okay. Blessed Jerome has written about the ancient kings of the Franks, whose story was first told by the poet Virgil. Ooh. Okay, so Virgil. The poet Virgil is also the poet and one of the main characters in Inferno, because it's not called Dante's Inferno. It's just called Inferno, but it was written by a guy named Dante Alighieri. A fun little side note on that book that I like to throw around a lot, because a lot of people don't know this, that every depiction of hell, burning hellfire and demons and all that shit, that is the origin of where all that stuff comes from. And it was, at the time it was written as fictitious. It is a fictitious story, but just over the periods of time, and because it's such an old book and so like well recognized, I think just over centuries, the imagery from the book just kind of fell into Christian lore, and so like that's where all that stuff comes from. I think that is very, very interesting, and I think that's really important that everybody should know that. That is factual information. You can look it up. Read the Bible. Like do some fact checking, but just I do believe that everybody needs to know that. So back to Virgil here. Virgil, their first king was Priam, and after Troy was captured by trickery, they departed. Afterwards, they had as king Frigga. Huh. That's North mythology, isn't it? Frigga, isn't that like... I'm pretty sure that's like Norse or Viking or something. They split into two parts. The first going into Macedonia, and the second group, which left Asia with Frigga, were called the Friggi, because they were getting friggy, settled in the banks of the Danube and the Ocean Sea, again splitting into two groups. Half of them entered Europe with their king Francio. After crossing Europe with their wives and children, they occupied the banks of the Rhine, and not far from the Rhine began to build the city of Troy, if you know that from the Tale of Troy. They're Is the Iliad? I hate that. Damn, that is some good coffee. I've been talking for a while now, and this is just the most delicious thing I think I've ever had. How are you guys in chat doing? I'm gonna take a break for a quick second before we get back to the reading. Weren't the Doth Friggi in Game of Thrones? Well, I don't know. I don't recognize Doth Friggi. Give you some? I totally would. Travis, come on down. Papa Opto will make you a little coffee. What kind of coffee? I'm a sucker for a good coffee. It's a Kona blend. It's a Kona blend with a little bit of French vanilla delight creamer in it. Dothraki, yeah, that's totally fictional and made up. But there is an entire language. When you think about fictional languages, right? You got Elven from Lord of the Rings, Klingon, and then Dothraki. Those are like the three big fake languages that everybody... Well, they're not fake, they're actual languages, but they were made up for like TV or movie. Orcish from WoW. That's a real thing? They have a whole language? Your damn Keurig didn't show up last night, presumably because of the storms. That sucks, dude. That sucks. We got some sad music. Some sad music. F's in chat for Cinca. F is for Cinca. F. There we go. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. Cinca appreciates it. All right. So that was a little bit of the mythos and kind of the backstory on the Franks, which I think is super cool because, like, I recognize some of that history. But I don't want to go too far into some of this. We'll leave this up and we may come back to it later. All right, so we're gonna pop into the Goths. You guys want to learn about the Goths? Let me get it. Let me get a. It's not a phase if you still shop at Hot Topic. I know. I look dressed. I know I look dressed like I shop at JCPenney, but I don't. I got this shirt for a job. And I just like to rock it sometimes. Alright, so the Goths. I can't say the Gothic pronunciation. Romanize, it's good Piuda. The good Piuda. Latin is Gothi. And ancient Greek, I can't pronounce that either. They were also a Germanic people who played a major role in the fall of the Western Roman Empire. We keep talking about the fall of the Western Roman Empire, so hold on. We're gonna go and we're gonna just jump into the dissolution of the Roman Empire before we learn more about these peoples, because this is really important leading into the Dark Ages, because that's what started it, was the dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire. The fall of the Holy Roman Empire was a big time. Lots of big celebrities were there. It was crazy. PQ, it's good to see you too, dude. You finally have power again. I'm feeling slightly better now that the stress isn't killing me. Is that not the truth? Okay. Stress will hurt you worse than anything else. Like, I can't explain it. The moment that you start to take some of that stress off your shoulders and take some of that stress out of your life immediately begins to get better. Is that pre-Caesar? No, it'd be post-Caesar. Caesar was a part of the Holy Roman Empire. Roman Empire fell. So there was no more Holy Roman Empire. So, if you get off topic, is that roaming? Ha ha ha! That was good. I'll give you that. That was good. You made me lose my whole. I'm gonna take another sip of coffee now because I lost my whole train of thought. Do you think before trains it was something else? You made me lose my whole caterpillar of thought or something. I don't know what else would be long and my whole carriage. I lost my whole carriage of thought. The dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire occurred de facto on August 6, 1806, when the last Holy Roman Emperor, Francis II, look at this dude. Look at him. Look at that hair. His head is very oddly shaped. I don't know how I feel about it. It looks like a thumb. His head looks like a thumb with a face, like a literal thumb. It was the last Holy Roman Emperor, and as Francis I, the first Emperor of Austria, from 1804 to 1835, he assumed the title of Emperor of Austria in response to the coronation of Napoleon as Emperor of the French soon after Napoleon created the Confederation. Abdicated his title and released all imperial states and officials from oaths and obligations to the empire. So he pretty much fired everybody. All forehead. What's up, Trashman Dad? All forehead. Since the Middle Ages, the Holy Roman Empire had been recognized by Western Europeans as a legitimate continuation. Nice car. Thank you. Thank you for the recognized by Western Europeans as the legitimate continuation of the ancient Roman Empire, due to its empires having been proclaimed as Roman emperors by the papacy. Through the Roman legacy, the Holy Roman Emperors claimed to be universal monarchs whose jurisdiction extended beyond the empire's formal emperors having been proclaimed as Roman emperors by the papacy. Through this Roman legend, the Holy Roman Emperors claimed to be universal monarchs whose jurisdiction extended beyond their emperors' formal borders to all of Christian Europe and beyond. So they were like, we're gods, we can tell you what to do. It doesn't matter if we've never met you before, if you live in a different part of the planet. Like, that's... those dudes' balls must have just been gigantic. And probably from lack of hygiene and, I don't know, all sorts of other bacteria and shit that lived back then. Was gout around at the time? I'm sure it was, or something comparable. Been a while. Dude, I am fantastic. I hope you are doing well, too. Trash bin. Appreciate you coming in. Thanks for the follow, dude. All right. Which brought with it the idea that jurisdiction corresponded to actual territory governed, threatened the universal nature of the Holy Roman Empire. So they were like, somebody somewhere finally was like, hey, you can't do that. You don't rule us. And they were like, oh, what? We'll show you. So the Holy Roman Empire, by the time of the 18th century, was widely regarded by contemporaries both inside and outside of the empire as highly irregular monarchy and sick, having an unusual form of government. Yeah, I'd say so. The empire lacked both a central standing army and a central treasury, and its monarchs, formally elective rather than hereditary, could not exercise effective central control. Even then, most contemporaries believe that the empire could be revived and modernized. The Holy Roman Empire finally began its true terminal decline during and after its involvement in the French Revolutionary Wars and the Napoleonic Wars. Although the empire defended itself quite well initially, war with France and Napoleon proved catastrophic. In 1804, Napoleon proclaimed himself the Emperor of the French, which Francis II responded to by proclaiming himself the Emperor of Austria. He was like, oh, well, you're the Emperor of all the French? Well, fuck you, dude. I'm the Emperor of the Austria now. Yeah, so take that. You got a flag? I got a flag. Let's go. In addition to already being the Holy Roman Emperor. He was already the Holy Roman Emperor, and as we just read, they believed that as an emperor of Rome, they already believed that they had the ability to dictate and you know, govern laws to anybody all over the globe, whether the territory existed or not. Like as soon as they were like, oh, so our strength only reaches so far, they were like, well, I guess it sucks to be emperor now, because like I thought I could tell everybody what to do. I'm the emperor of your mom then. Did you bring a flag? I did. So, an attempt at maintaining parity between France and Austria, while also illustrating that the Holy Roman title outranked them both. Austria's defeat at the Battle of Austerlitz in December 1805, and the secession of a large number of Francis II's German vassals in July 1806, and the Confederation of the Rhine, a French satellite state, effectively meant the end of the Holy Roman Empire. So we kind of got some of the history of that, but I was wanting to see blah 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 blah. Let's go back over here. Okay, so back, let's just just like a white guy claiming other people's lands with a flag, right? So now that we've got some new people in here, we're gonna bounce back over to the Dark Ages. Historiography, which I like that word. So the concept of a Dark Age originated in the 1330s with the Italian scholar Petrarch. Look, now if you want to make some comments about Game of Thrones, because this totally looks like the dude from Game of Thrones. Francesco Petrarca, commonly angelicized as Petrarch. Petrarch. We're just gonna say Petrarch. I can't pick which one I want to go with. Was a scholar and poet of early Renaissance Italy and one of the earliest humanists. So again, a basic background: you have the fall of the Holy Roman Empire, then we have the Dark Ages, and then the Dark Ages led into the Renaissance, which, you know, as everybody knows, for art and music and plays and all that stuff. So that's why it's called the Dark Ages, is because they thought there wasn't a whole lot of value during that time period. There wasn't a whole lot of intellectual stimulation or like cultures raising up or anything like that. It was mostly just a bunch of barbarians fucking everything up and conquering lands until we got into the Renaissance. So who regarded the post-Roman centuries as dark compared to the light of classical antiquity, which is the period of cultural history between the 8th century BC and the 6th century AD. Again, fun side note, BC, before, AD, after, but they're backwards in numbers. So if it's a number that has the BC comes after the number. If it has AD, it comes before, which makes no sense at all. That's gonna bug the shit out of me forever. Just why put before number, after number? Like, why is this your sense? What's up, Whiskey? And so century AD centered on the Mediterranean Sea, comprising the interlocking civilizations of ancient Greece and the ancient Rome, known as the Greco-Roman world. It is the period in which both Greek and Roman societies... I actually kind of want to click on this a little bit. Oh no. Oh no. Go back. So again, this is 8th century BC and the 6th century. The term employs traditional light versus darkness imagery to contrast the era's darkness, lack of records, with earlier and later periods of light, abundance of records. The phrase Dark Age itself derives from the Latin Saeculum Obscurum, which was a period in the history of the papacy during the first 2/3 of the 10th century, following the chaos after the death of Formosas. You guys want to go out and get some Formosas after church? You know what I'm saying? Pop back up, Bubble. In 896, which saw 7 or 8 papal elections in as many years. It began with the installation of Pope Sergius III in 904 and lasting 60 years. Now, again, that was right after the Dark Ages in 896. Originally applied by Caesar Baronius in 1602, when he referred to a tumultuous period in the 10th and 11th centuries. The concept thus came to characterize the entire Middle Ages as a time of intellectual darkness in Europe between the fall of Rome and the Renaissance. This became especially popular during the 18th century Age of Enlightenment. As the accomplishment... I just want to say your mic sounds so good. Thank you. Thank you, Whiskey. I've been working on it. I've been tweaking audio and doing some audio stuff. So thank you very much for that. I'm also holding it, so if you see it moving around and me like duck dodging. I don't know where that phrase came from. That's not a real thing. I just made that up. Ducking and dodging. Okay, so it had nothing to do with ducks. It had to do with ducking. Are you jealous of... Don't be jealous of my mic. I'm jealous of your face. What's that one movie where he's like, it's that face. I don't like your face. Change it. Ducking and dodging. Like... But then duck dodgers. And then so I said duck dodging. Duck dodge this. That could be a catchphrase. Duck dodge this. That's totally a catchphrase. I'm gonna sell that to Disney. That's it. That's it. We're done here. I gotta go send this to Disney. Dodgeball. I'm jealous of your sex appeal. Yeah. I don't know how to respond to that. Is that a thank you moment, or is that a I'm sorry moment? Thank you for the compliment of your turmoil, because I'm sex apples. Retirement plan achieved. I'm jealous of your knowledge of the Dark Ages. I mean, we're all learning together. Like, I think it's impossible to memorize all this stuff. To go over like the whole circumference of all of this stuff. I mean, there are college classes on it that last, months. So, am I blushing? If I am, it's just because it's taking the muscles in my face a lot of effort to keep smiling all the time. I'm jealous of your knowledge of duck dodging. 100% the sexiness. What's up, Slayer? We're all jealous of your sexiness. Hold on. I think I got something here. Hold on. What did that do? Oh, it just made everything shiny. I don't want that one. I love that one. That's so good. That one doesn't work right there. Fuck that guy. We talking about sexy boy. Who is the Slayer guy? Who is the Lone Slayer? One-time world champion. Heavyweight bodybuilder. Alright. We've gotten so far off topic. So back over to... Okay. As the accomplishment... I don't like that word. Accomplishments. Accomplishments. Sibilance. Sibilance. Accomplishments. And the music's getting all intense and shit again. As the accomplishments of the era came to be better understood in the 19th and 20th centuries, scholars began restricting the Dark Ages appellation to the early Middle Ages, 5th to 10th century, and now scholars reject its usage in this period. The majority of modern scholars avoid the term altogether due to its negative connotations. Oh yeah, this is important. Finding it misleading and inaccurate. Petrarch's pejorative meaning remains in use, typically in popular culture. That's why it's referred to as the Dark Ages by us, non-historians, I don't know, people well-versed in history. Syphilis. Syphilis. I'm sure that there's plenty of that going on at the time, buddy. I'm sure there's plenty of that. Often mischaracterizes the Middle Ages as a time of violence and backwardness. I mean, but it was, though. It was. We were just talking about the Huns, dude. They fucked everything up. And they fucked everything. That's what they did. That was literally what the Huns did. 80% of the world's population today has Attila the Hun's DNA because he fucked everything. That man did not stop. He probably fucked 10 to 15 times a day on like a bad day. That dude was fucking. I mean, I'm jealous of his mustache. All right. All right. So the idea of a dark age originated with the Tuscan scholar Petrarch in the 1330s. Writing of the past, he said, amidst the errors, there shone forth men. Wait, hold on. Amidst the errors, there shone forth men of genius. No less keen were their eyes, although they were surrounded by darkness and dense gloom. Christian writers, including Petrarch himself, had long used traditional metaphors of light versus darkness to describe good versus evil. Again, most of this, good versus evil, depictions of hell, fire, all that, brimstone, demons, shit like that, it all came from Dante Alighieri writing Inferno, Paradiso, and Purgatorio. Petrarch was the first to give metaphor secular meaning by reversing its application. He now saw classical antiquity, which again was that era, so long considered a dark age for its lack of Christianity, in the light of his cultural achievements, while Petrarch's own time allegedly lacking such cultural achievements, was seen as the age of darkness. From his perspective on the Italian peninsula, he fucked anything and everything. 10 to 15 he fucking. Yeah, dude, he is fucking. When do you nap and eat? While he's fucking, dude. You think he was doing all the work all 15 times? At least 8 of those. And I think that's being nice. I would say at least 8 of those he just laid there. And everything. I'm everything. Hi, everything. All right. I'm going to need to get up and get another drink here in a moment. Because I think, yeah. We are on E here. All right. From his perspective on the Italian peninsula, Petrarch saw the Roman period in classical antiquity as an expression of greatness. He spent much of his time traveling through Europe, rediscovering and republishing classic Latin and Greek texts. He wanted to restore the Latin language to its former purity. Renaissance humanists saw the preceding 900 years as a time of stagnation, with the history unfolding not along the religious outline of St. Augustine's 6 Ages of the World, which is a Christian historical period first written about by Augustine of Hippo circa AD 400. So that was like a fucking long time ago. But in cultural or secular terms, through progressive development of classical ideas, literature, and art. Petrarch wrote that history had 2 periods, the classical period of Greeks and Romans, followed by a time of darkness in which he saw himself living. And around 1343, that's not a number at all. That's just a word put in with a number. In around 1343, in the conclusion of his epic Africa, which Africa is an epic poem, one of the first epic poems, I believe. We're actually, hold on. I do want to dig into this. Africa is an epic poem, because anytime you hear the word epic poem, and I don't know the exact definition behind it, but if you think epic poems, you're thinking of like the Iliad or Inferno or the Odyssey. That's because they're so fucking old. They're some of the first ever like written down works. They didn't have printers back then. They weren't printing out mass copies of books or poems or whatever. It was usually like they would finish writing one copy, and then maybe if they felt like it, they would jot down and copy and make a second or third copy, or monks would do that shit. And it was really hard. So if you got a copy, like they were serious about library fees. They would fucking kill you if you didn't return your library book. They would hunt you down, and they would feed you to wild hippos. And if you think I made that up, well, you're just wrong, because it's true. Look it up. So anyway, 14. So Petrarch actually wrote Africa, not Toto, as some of you would think. It tells the story of the Second Punic War, which lasted from 218 to 201 BC, was the second of 3 wars fought between Carthage and Rome, the 2 main powers of the Western Mediterranean in the 3rd century BC. For 17 years, the 2 states struggled for supremacy, primarily in Italy and Iberia, in which Carthaginian General Hannibal, not the skin-eating kind, not the person-eating guy, he was a Carthaginian. We're gonna get this, guys. We're gonna learn how to speak today. Carthaginian general and statesman who commanded the forces of Carthage in their battle against the Roman Republic during the Second Punic War. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest military commanders in the world, or in history. So, what did he do? Roman forces were eventually victorious after an invasion of North Africa led by Publius. Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, the epic poem's hero. That's the hero's name. He has no nose. He was a Roman general and statesman, which notable as one of the main architects of Rome's victory against Carthage in the Second Punic War, often regarded as the best pubes I've ever seen on a military commander and strategist of all time. Biggest dickus. But again, I think that was all fictional. That was the poem that he wrote. It tells the story of the Second Punic War. We don't know if that's... do we know if that's real? Yeah, we do. But it was in 200 BC. So just stories of it lived on over centuries. So he probably got a verbal account of it from somebody and was like, oh, fuck yeah, dude, I'm going to write this shit down. And sure enough, he's got his own Wikipedia page. So he fucking made it, guys. Remember that. Next time your friend tells you some crazy off-the-wall shit, you write that down, and it might end up on Wikipedia. So back to the Dark Ages. All right, so Reformation. Or do we want to hop back into the Goths? Kind of want to learn a little bit more about the Goths. We're making our way through these people. The depiction of a Gothic warrior at an orgy eating somebody's ass. Let's see what this looks like. Look at him. He just can't get enough of that. He did the long con. So, the Goths were a Germanic people who played a major role in the fall of Western Roman Empire and the emergence of medieval Europe. So in his book Getica, the historian Jordanes writes that the Goths originated in southern Scandinavia, which is in northern Europe, with a strong historical, cultural, and linguistic ties between its constituent peoples. But the accuracy of this account is unclear. A people called the Geutones, they were also a Germanic people reported by Roman-era writers in the 1st and 2nd centuries to have lived in what is now Poland. The most accurate description of their location by the geographer Ptolemy placed them east of the Vistula River. So that's kind of cool. So everybody, always talking about Poland. They did some stuff. Oh, we ass-eating now. Yeah, look at them, dude. They're totally ass-eating. In what has been associated with Gothic migration and the late 3rd century, it contributed to the formation of the Chernyakhov culture. By the 4th century, at the latest, several Gothic groups were distinguishable, among whom the Tervingi or Tarawingi, were a Gothic people of the plains north of the lower Danube and west of the Dniester River in the 3rd and 4th centuries. And the Gruthungi were the most powerful. During this time, Ulfilas, also known as the Ulfilas and Orfila, all Latinized forms of the unattested Gothic form Wulfila, literally little wolf, as a Goth of Cappadocian Greek descent who served as a bishop and missionary, participated in the Arian controversy, and is credited, began the conversion of Goths to Arianism. In the late 4th century, be right back. In the late 4th century, the lands of the Goths were invaded from the east by the Huns. Okay, so this is where during the migration period, where the Huns and the Goths finally met up for the first time. And what does that say? In the aftermath of this event, several groups of Goths came under Hunnic domination, so they took over a bunch of the Goths, while others migrated further west or sought refuge inside the Roman Empire. Goths who entered the empire by crossing the Danube inflicted a devastating defeat upon the Romans at the Battle of Adrianople in 378. The Battle of Adrianople, sometimes known as the Battle of Hadrianopolis, was fought between an Eastern Roman army led by the Eastern Roman Emperor Valens and the Gothic rebels led by Fritigern. The battle took place in the vicinity of Adrianople in the Roman province of, I believe that's going to say Thrace. These Goths would form the Visigoths, and the Visigoths were an early Germanic people who, along with the Ostrogoths, constituted the two major political entities of the Goths within the Roman Empire in late antiquity, or what is known as the migration period. So again, that's another term for the time period, is the late antiquity. So we had the classical antiquity, the late antiquity, and those took place during the migration period. So these are like little mini eras of history that took place like in that time frame, because it's like 900 years long. The Dark Ages were like 900, almost 1,000 years long. So there were like eras of time in between that to like kind of mark certain events that took place. So it constituted the two major political entities of the Goths within the Roman Empire in late antiquity, or what is known as the migration period. The Visigoths emerged from earlier Gothic groups, including... All right. And under their king, Alaric I, who was the first king of the Visigoths. So once the Goths split up, he was the first king of this one side from 395 to 410. He rose to leadership of the Goths, who came to occupy Moesia territory. Mosey on down that territory. I fucking tell you what, brother. Acquired a couple of decades earlier by a combined force of Goths and Alans. Those damn Alans. If you guys know any Alans, watch out. Watch out for Alan. Alan's coming to get you. I don't remember where I was. Where did you go, Alan? The Goths and Alans after the Battle of Adrianople. They began a long migration, eventually establishing a Visigoth kingdom in Spain at Toledo. Meanwhile, Goths under the Hunnic rule, so the other side, the other group that split away from them, they gained their independence in the 5th century. Most importantly, the Ostrogoths under their king Theodoric the Great. So Theodoric the Great was the king of the Ostrogoths, and then Alaric I was the king of the Visigoths. These Goths established an Ostrogothic kingdom in Italy at Ravenna. And Ravenna is the capital city of the province of Ravenna in the Emilia-Romagna region of northern Italy. It was the capital city of the Western Roman Empire from 402 until the empire collapsed in 476. It then served as the capital of Ostrogothic kingdom until it was reconquered in 540 by the Byzantine Empire. The Ostrogothic kingdom was destroyed by the Eastern Roman Empire in the 6th century, while the Visigothic kingdom was conquered by the Umayyad Caliphate, and that was the second caliphate established after the death of Muhammad. So the caliphate was ruled by the Umayyad dynasty based in Syria. So that was Syria getting into the mix. So Syria is trying to get some of that action there in the early 8th century. Remnants of Gothic communities in Crimea, known as the Crimean Goths. So now we have a third Goth. We got Doom Goth, we got Metal Goth, we got Punk Goth. We got Glitter Goth. We got Crimean Goth. They were the Gruthungi Gothic tribes. Who remained in the lands around the Black Sea. So when the Goths left and split up, I guess these were the Goths that stayed behind. These were like the OG Goths. They were like, we're not going to run us out of our fucking hot topic, bastards. Their existence is well attested from the ages through the exact period when they ceased to exist as a distinct culture is. So like they literally just stayed behind and just kind of like over time they just started blending in. They stopped buying the choker necklaces, and they stopped wearing like the black lipstick and stuff, and then they just kind of like, you know, now it's just Steve. He just wears black t-shirts and black pants and black shoes, and he has black hair. You know, he just kind of blends in. Try and touch my eyeliner, I dare you. All right, I think we've learned enough about the Goths. My mouth is so dry. I am going to go grab a couple drinks to bring in here. All right, we're back. I came back, and I've got a vitamin water. I like the name. It's called Gutsy. It's a gutsy... a gutsy zero sugar vitamin water, and it's watermelon peach flavored. Gutsy, yeah. It's got guts. It does not have guts. It's just goatsy. Yeah, it's just liquid. That's false advertising. All right. I'm back. I'm ready to do this thing. I got something to drink now, so I don't feel like my mouth is going to fall off my face. It's time to learn about the Alemanni. 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 I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce that. Usually there's like a pronunciation guide or something. I'm pretty sure we're just going to... The Alemanni. I think it's Alemanni. We're a confederation of Germanic tribes on the Upper Rhine River, first mentioned by Cassius Dio. You thought it was somebody else, but it was me, Dio. Also known as Dio Cassius, was a Roman historian and senator of maternal Greek origin. He published 80 volumes of the history on ancient Rome, beginning with the arrival of Enos in Italy. Of Anus in Italy. We're, for the sake of just comedy, it's going to be Anus. He published 80 volumes of history on ancient Rome, beginning with the arrival of Anus in Italy. The volumes documented the subsequent founding of Rome. In the context of the campaign of Caracalla of 213, the Alemanni captured the Agri decumates. Some of this shit is just so hard to pronounce, man. The Agri decumates, or the decumates Agri, were a region of the Roman Empire's provinces of Germania Superior and Raetia, covering the Black Forest, Swabian Jura, and Franconian Jura areas between the Rhine, Main, and Danube rivers in present southwestern Germany in 260, and later expanded into present-day Alsace, which is a cultural region and a territorial collectivity in eastern France on the west bank of the Upper Rhine next to Germany and Switzerland. In 2017, it had a population of 1,889,589. Alsatian culture is characterized by a blend of Germanic and French influences. And northern Switzerland, leading to the establishment of the Old High German language in those regions by the 8th century, named Alemannia. In 496, the Alemanni were conquered by Frankish leader Clovis, so now we got the Franks coming back into the picture. The Franks actually took them over and incorporated into his dominions, mentioned as still pagan allies of the Christian Franks. The Alemanni were gradually Christianized during the 7th century. The Lex Alamanorum, say that 7 times fast. Say it 2 times fast. Lex Alamanorum. The Lex Alamanorum and Pactus Alamanorum were 2 early medieval law codes of the Alemanni. They were first edited in parts in 1530 by Johannes Sieghard. No, I don't know what you got wrong. That's just the word come. That's just the word come typed out. In 496, the Alemanni were conquered by Frankish leader Clovis. Clovis, that sounds important. He was the first king of the Franks to unite all Frankish tribes under one ruler, changing the form of leadership from a group of petty kings to rule by a single king and ensuring that the kingship was passed down to his heirs. He is considered to have been the founder, and incorporated into his dominions. Mentioned as still pagan allies of Christian Franks. Okay, so I'm glad we went back to that because I didn't realize that was hyperlinked. Where did we leave off? Where did I leave off? Right there. The Alemanni were gradually Christianized during the 7th century. The Lex Alamanorum is a record of their customary law during this period until the 8th century. Frankish suzerainty. Suzerainty is a relationship in which one state or other polity, is that even a word? What the fuck? Controls the foreign policy and relations of the tributary state, while allowing the tributary state to have internal autonomy. The dominant state is called the suzerain. Suzerainty controls the foreign policy and relations of the state. Okay. I'm very honestly having a problem trying to figure out what that means. I want to. I feel like all the information's there, and I've read that, just that little paragraph like 3 times. It's still like one party. It means I'm like, if I'm a country and you're a country and I'm trying to trade with you, it's saying that like I'm allowing you to set your own laws over here. Like I don't know. Like whatever like diplomatic privilege or something. Like I don't know. That's kind of what it sounds like to me. Kind of sounds like as long as we're cool and like we're not at war, like I'm kind of cool with however you want to govern like your own shit over here. It's pirate law, man. If it's your people, you do whatever, you know. It does seem kind of dangerous, though. All right. Was mostly nominal. After an uprising by Theudebald, or Theutbald, was the Duke of Alemannia from 730 until his deposition. He was the son of Gottfried. He was the son of Gottfried and his brother and co-ruler with Gottfried and Lantfried from 709. Duke of Alemannia, though, Carloman. Carloman was the eldest son of Charles Martel, major domo, or he's the major domo or mayor of the palace and Duke of the Franks, and his wife Trotrude. What the fuck kind of word is it? Trotrude of Treves. And his wife, Trotrude of Treves. It sounds like they just made that shit up. On Charles' death, I'm going to read this whole thing again, because, again, Carloman was the eldest son of Charles Martel, major domo or mayor of the palace and Duke of the Franks, and his wife, Trotrude of Treves. On Charles' death, 741, Carloman and his brother Pepin, the Short, succeeded to their father's legal positions, Carloman in Austrasia, and Pepin. What? Okay. Executed the Alemannic nobility and installed Frankish dukes. So Carloman, they fucking killed all the nobles. They executed all the Alemannic nobles, and they installed Frankish dukes. So they just like they put their own people into, they killed the dukes and they put their own people into place. During the later and weaker years of the Carolingian Empire. So good call going from changing Carl to Carol. Carloman, how would you do the Carolingian Empire? Carolingian Empire sounds like it just sounds like it'd be much nicer, like reading that in a history book, you know, hundreds of years from now, not being like, oh yeah, the Carolingian Empire, they were known for so many great things, you know, like the Carolingian Empire. Nobody wants to talk about the Carolingian Empire. Hey, Player Cetra, thank you so much. Thank you for spreading the good vibes. I appreciate that. What a good thing to do. So the okay, so they murdered them. They put their own people into place. During the later and weaker years of the Carolingian Empire. So that was from 751 to 888. So damn, they had over 130-year rule. It was ruled by the Carolingian dynasty. So they became a dynasty and then started their own empire. That's pretty cool. The Alemannic counts became almost independent, and a struggle for supremacy took place between them and the bishopric of Constance. The Prince Bishopric. Oh God, words are hard. The Prince Bishopric of Constance was a small ecclesiastical principality of the Holy Roman Empire from the mid-12th century until its secularization in 1802-1803. I am so proud of myself for doing that whole sentence on the first try. That deserves some props. What up, Kung Fu Hustle? Sounds Star Trek-y, it does. I'm basing that statement on preseason 7 memes. Nobody expects the Carolingian Inquisition. Yeah, man, the Carolingian Empire had so many crazy torture devices, but the Carolingian Empire, the chief family in Almanania, the chief family in Animaniacs, the chief family in Alabama, the chief family in, oh man, was that of the counts of the Raetia Quirinius. Was an early medieval province in Central Europe named after the preceding Roman province of Raetia Prima. What a cool name for a town, can I just say, or like a village or whatever. The Raetia Prima, dude. They should, like, more cities should have 2 names. You know what I mean? I think more cities should have 2 names, which retained its Romansh culture during the migration period, while the adjacent territories in the north were largely settled by, I'm going to say, Alemannia, who were sometimes called the Margraves, and of whom Burkhard II, who was the Huntfording, he was the Huntfording Duke of Swabia and Count of Raetia. He was the son of Burkhard I, of Swabia, and Liutgard of Saxony. They established the Duchy of Swabia, and the Duchy of Swabia was one of the 5 stem duchies. The 5 stem duchies, don't forget about the other 4, of the medieval German kingdom. It arose in the 10th century in the southwestern area that had been settled by Alemanni tribes in late antiquity. So again, that was another another period of time, was the late antiquity. All right, you slow down now. I need something to drink. I can hear my dry tongue clicking. I don't like it. I don't like it. Your power back on. Oh shit, Kung Fu, you lost your power. You're killing it, dude. It's hard. Next week, we're gonna pick a topic that's gonna be easier to condense, and like, again, I want to be able to tie these into a nice package and have like a story and a timeline and have it, so there's a good starting point and a good finishing point. I didn't get to finish my research on this, so like I had a really strong, good start. And we've been doing really well winging it with the middle part, but when we come to the end of it, like, I don't really know where to end it. We'll probably talk about like just the end of the Dark Ages and going into the Renaissance. He lives in bumfuck nowhere. Who's that? Oh, Kung Fu. Kung Fu lives in the middle of nowhere. Why do you live in the middle of nowhere? Move somewhere that has better internet. And like places to get food and people for food. I don't know what you're into. I don't know what you're into. No, whatever. This has been a public service announcement. Please do not eat people. This is only a joke. He hunts and gathers rocks, though, and berries. And cool looking leaves. All right. We gotta get back here. I think, all right, we've learned about the Alemanni. Shit kind of sucks for them. Because Karl came in and fucking killed all of their like noble families and pretty much took over the Alemanni. All right, now it's time to learn about the Alans. The Alans, or Latin Alani. Ooh, that sounds really familiar. I feel like I've heard that term before. They were an ancient and medieval Iranian nomadic pastoral people of the North Caucasus, or Ciscaucasia, is a sub-region in Eastern Europe. It is the northern part of the wider Caucasus region and is entirely a part of Russia, sandwiched between the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea to the west and the Caspian Sea to the east. The region shares land borders with Georgia and something else, and is generally regarded as part of the Sarmatians, and they were a large Iranian confederation that existed in classical antiquity. So again, that was the period of time that we talked about previously, flourishing from the 5th century BC to the 4th century AD. So that's a long period of time right there, and possibly related to the Masagetti. The Masagetti or the Masagettians were an ancient eastern Iranian nomadic tribal confederation who inhabited the steppes of Central Asia, northeast, the Caspian Sea, and the modern Turkmenistan, western Uzbekistan, and southern Kazakhstan. They belong to the Saka people, and that's the Masagetti. The modern historians have connected the Alans with the Central Asian Yonkai of Chinese sources and the Aorsi. They're part of the Aorsi of Roman sources, and the Aorsi, known in Greek sources as the Aorsoi, were an ancient Iranian people of the Sarmatian group who played a major role in events of the Pontic steppe from the 1st century BC to the 1st century. I'm going to guess that says AD. And having migrated westwards and becoming dominant among the Sarmatians of the Pontic Caspian steppe, the Alans are mentioned by Roman sources in the 1st century CE. So again, CE, Common Era, all encompassing, that it has no religious ties. At that time, they had settled the region north of the Black Sea and frequently raided the Parthian Empire and the Caucasian provinces of the Roman Empire. From 215 to 250 CE, the Goths broke their power on the Pontic steppe. Wait, what? I have a friend named Iwani. Damn Steam. Damn Steam, out me on stream. On brand for Kung Fu. Upon the Hunnic defeat of the Goths, so this is after the Huns took over the Goths on the Pontic steppe around 375 CE. Many of the Alans migrated westwards along with the various Germanic tribes. They crossed the Rhine in 406 CE along with the Vandals and the Suebi. And the Vandals, they were a Germanic people who first inhabited. Oh, okay, they were from Poland. They established Vandal kingdoms on the Iberian Peninsula, Mediterranean islands, and North Africa in the 5th century. And the Suebi, I don't think we actually read about the Suebi. I don't know if I'm saying that right. The Suebi? The Suebi? They were a large group of Germanic peoples originally from the Elbe River region and what now is Germany and the Czech Republic. In the early Roman era, they included many peoples with their own names, such as the Marcomanni, the Quadi, the Hermundari, the Semnones, and the Lombards. Yeah, the Lombards. Sweaty! So, they settled to Orleans and Valence. Around 409 CE, they joined the Vandals and Suebi, crossing the Pyrenees into the Iberian Peninsula, settling in Lusitania and Hispania, Carthaginosis. Carthaginosis. Genensis. What? Carthaginosis. The Iberian Alans soundly defeated by the Visigoths in 418 CE. Subsequently, they surrendered their authority to the Hasdingi Vandals. In 428 CE, the Vandals and Alans crossed the Strait of Gibraltar into North Africa, where they founded a kingdom which lasted until its conquest forces of the Byzantine Empire, Justinian, in 534. Justinian I, also known as Justinian the Great, was the Byzantine emperor from 527 to 565. Can I say that his portrait, that's pretty good. In the year 527. CE, Common Era. So that's AD. That would be AD too. That's crazy. It's 2020 now. Like, look how detailed that is. And that's like out of like pebble stones and stuff. It looks like. It looks like a mosaic or something, you know? That's fucking awesome. Those Alans who remained under Hunnic rule eventually founded the powerful kingdom of Alania in the North Caucasus in the 9th century. The Alania got all up in the North Caucasus in the 9th century. It survived until the Mongol invasion. So that's, the Huns, Attila the Hun, the Mongols, of the 13th century CE. Various Ossetian scholars regard these Alans as the ancestors of the modern Ossetians. The Alans spoke an Eastern Iranian language which derived from Scytho-Sarmatian, so we're talking about the Sarmatians again, and which in turn evolved into the modern, oh wow, I got something in my throat, Northcock. You guys got to stop typing out dirty things because I'm going to keep reading them. You forgot to remind me to download Pikmin Bloom. What is Pikmin Bloom? It's like Pokemon Go, but for Pikmin. It's free. This is not sponsored, but you can download it from your phone store, your local app store. I got something in my throat, Northcock. Is that what I said? I still have something in my throat. It's North. What is it? No, look. You want to know how I know I didn't say that? Because there's only 3 other choices to make. It could be southwest or east. Eastcock. I don't know, Southcock. Is that like left-handed? Southcock is left-handed. That's now the definition. If you're left-handed, it's called Southcock. All right. So, yeah, we're done reading about the Alans. Let's, I guess we can jump. Let's jump back into the migration period. And so we've met all of these different peoples and these different cultures that are like all a part of the Dark Ages and that encompass and how some of them took over each other and how they're just like collectively like one by one being conquered until there's just like one left, right? How's it hanging, Bob? Wow, nice Northcock. So the migration period was a period of European history marked by large-scale migrations. I just said that. Let's scroll down a little bit. Here we go. The migrants comprised war bands or tribes of 10,000 to 20,000 people. Can you just imagine that? Can you just imagine that? 20,000 people to a group just like roaming the countryside. But in the course of 100 years, they numbered not more than 750,000 in total. Citation needed. This claim needs reference to reliable sources. Okay. So they estimate 750,000 compared to an average 40 million population of the Roman Empire at the time. Although immigration was common throughout the time of the Roman Empire, the period in question was in the 19th century, often defined as running from about the 5th to 8th centuries AD. The first migrations of peoples were made by the Germanic tribes such as the Goths, including the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths. We fucking talked about them. The Vandals, we talked about them too. It's also a really good band, by the way. The Anglo-Saxons, which would be, we haven't talked about them. They were a cultural group who inhabited England in the early Middle Ages. They trace their origins to settlers who came to Britain from mainland Europe in 5th century. However, the ethnogenesis of the Anglo-Saxons happened within Britain. The Lombards, they ruled most of the Italian peninsula from 568 to 774, with origins near the Elbe in northern Germany. I think we did talk about them, and Scania in the southern Sweden before the migration period. The Suebi, the Frisi, the Jutes, the Burgundians were there, man. The Alemanni, we talked about them. The Syri or the Syrians were a Germanic people as well. They are believed to have spoken an East Germanic language. Their name probably means the pure ones. We don't really know. We're just guessing. The Illuminati didn't do so hot. That's a fucking clip. It's seriously the best. We need to figure out how to do the clip thing. That's good. And the Franks, they were later pushed westward by the Huns, the Avars, the Slavs, which I'm going to guess are the largest European ethno-linguistic group. They speak the various Slavic languages. Okay, so that's where I was going with that, belonging to the larger Balto-Slavic branch of the Indo-European languages. Slavs are geographically distributed throughout northern Eurasia, mainly inhabiting Central and Eastern Europe. And the Bulgers. The Bulgers were Turkic semi-nomadic warrior tribes that flourished in the Pontic-Caspian steppe and the Volga region during the 7th century. They became known as nomadic equestrians in the Volga-Ural region, but some researchers say that their ethnic roots can be traced to Central Asia. You'll make a placeholder one? Yeah, do it. So later invasions such as Viking, Norman, Varangian, Hungarian, the Moorish, Turkic, Mongol, again, the Mongols, the Huns, especially in North Africa, the Iberian Peninsula, Anatolia, Central and Eastern Europe. However, they are considered outside the scope. So that's considered outside of the migration period because that happened after everybody already got here. So that's it for the migration period. We can hop back into the Dark Ages. So during the Reformations of the 16th and 17th centuries, Protestants generally had a similar view to the Renaissance humanists such as Petrarch, but also added an anti-Catholic perspective. They saw classical antiquity, which was that as a golden time, not only because of its Latin literature, but also because it witnessed the beginnings of Christianity. They promoted the idea that the Middle Age was a time of darkness, also because of corruption within the Catholic Church, such as popes ruling as kings. Very important to remember in history. Veneration of saints' relics, a licentious priesthood, and institutionalized moral hypocrisy. Baronius, in response to the Protestants, Catholics developed a counter image to depict the High Middle Ages in particular as a period of social and religious harmony and not dark at all. The most important Catholic reply to the Mageburg Centuries. The Mageburg Centuries is an ecclesiastical history divided into 13 centuries covering 1,300 years. Ending in 1298. It was first published from 1559 to 1574. It was compiled by several Lutheran scholars in Mageburg, known as Centuriators of Mageburg. Mageburg was the Annals Ecclesiastici. The Annals Ecclesiastici, consisting of 12 folio volumes, is a history of 12 centuries of the Christian Church written by Caesar Baronius and Odorico Reynaldi, now available on Amazon for $12.99 a month, and by Cardinal Caesar Baronius. Baronius was a trained historian who produced a work that the Encyclopedia Britannica in 1911 described as far surpassing anything before, and that Acton regarded as the greatest history of the church ever written. The Annals covered the first 12th century of Christianity in 1198 and was published in 12 volumes between 1588 and 1607. It was in volume X that Baronius coined the term Dark Age for the period between the end of the Carolingian Empire and the first stirrings of Gregorian reform under Pope Clement II in 1046. The new age that was beginning, for its harshness and barrenness of good could well be called iron, for its baseness and abounding evil leading, and moreover its lack of writers, inopia scriptorum, dark obscurum. Hey, what's up? What's up, Matt? How you doing, dude? Care to share with the rest of the class? Having juicy seafood? Ooh, Loblolly Creamery? Hell yeah, dude. That sounds delicious. All right. Whew. Significantly, Baronius termed the age dark because of the Paucity. We need a definition on this word. Paucity. I like how my Wikipedia search is Frank's. Paucity is the presence of something only in small or insufficient quantities or amounts. Scarcity. A paucity. So there's a lack of. So there's a lack of written records. Lack of written records. The lack of writers he referred to may be illustrated by comparing the number of volumes in Migne's Patrologia Latina, which is an enormous collection of the writings of the church fathers and other ecclesiastical writers published by Jacques-Paul Mignet between 1841 and 1855, which indices published between 1862 and 1865. It is also known as the Latin series, as it formed one half of something containing the work of Latin writers from the 10th century, the heart of the age he called dark. With the number containing the work of writers from the preceding and succeeding centuries, a minority of these writers were historians. So there were not a lot of writers here and not a lot of historians, not a whole lot of people writing shit down to like remember for later. There is a sharp drop from 34 volumes in the 9th century to just 8 in the 10th. The 11th century with 13 evidences a certain recovery, and the 12th century with 40 surpasses the 9th, something the 13th with just 26 fails to do. There was indeed a dark age, and Baronius' sense of lack of writers between the Carolingian Renaissance in the 9th century and the beginning sometime in the 11th, of what has been called the Renaissance of the 12th century. Furthermore, there was an earlier period of lack of writers during the 7th and 8th century. So in Western Europe, two dark ages can be identified, separated by the brilliant but brief Carolingian Renaissance. Baronius Dark Age seems to have struck historians, for it was in the 17th century that the term started to spread various European languages, with his original Latin term saeculum obscurum being reserved for the period he had applied it to. But while some following Baronius used Dark Age neutrally to refer to a dearth of written records, and a dearth being a lot, others use it pejoratively, lapsing into the lack of objectivity that has discredited the term for many modern historians. That is a really long-ass sentence. The first British historian to use the term was most likely Gilbert Bernay, and Gilbert Bernay was a Scottish philosopher and historian, and he was the Bishop of Salisbury Stakes. He was fluent in Dutch, French, Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. Golly! Oh my... Could you imagine? Holy shit. Could you imagine knowing that many languages? I mean, I guess back then you didn't have like TV or anything, so what else are you going to do? This dude knew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 languages. He was fluent in Dutch, French, Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. Bernay was highly respected as a cleric, a preacher, and an academic, a writer, and a historian. That is crazy. It got that dearth. I just can't believe that. In the form Darker Ages, which appears several times in his work during the later 17th century, the earliest reference seems to be in the Epistle Dedicatory. Hey, I said that right. To the volume 1 of the History of the Reformation of the Church of England of 1679, where he writes, "The design of Reformation was to restore Christianity to what it was at first, and to purge it of those corruptions with which it is overrun in the later and darker ages." He uses it again in 1682, volume 2, where he dismisses the story of St. George's fighting with the dragon. What? St. George's fighting with the dragon is a legend formed in the darker ages to support the humor of chivalry. Bernay was a bishop chronicling how England became Protestant, and his use of the term is invariably pejorative. So I kind of want, I want to look this up. I want to see what the story about the dragon's about. St. George and the Dragon. The legend of St. George and the Dragon tells of St. George And Saint George, who is also George of Leda, was a Christian who is venerated as a saint in Christianity. According to tradition, he was a soldier in the Roman army. Saint George was a soldier of Cappadocian. He was Cappadocian Greek origin and a member of the Praetorian Guard. So that's like the elite guards for the Roman emperor. So he died in 303, taming and slaying a dragon. A dragon is a reptile-like legend. Exactly what you think a dragon is. Taming and slaying a dragon that demanded human sacrifices. So not only was it a dragon, it was a talking dragon. It was a talking dragon. The story goes that the dragon originally extorted tribute from the villagers. So pretty much like, if you don't give me like whatever you have, like your children or your food or whatever, I'll fucking eat all of you and kill you. When they ran out of livestock and trinkets for the dragon, they started giving up human tribute once a year. Okay, so I was a little ahead of myself. So yeah, so they were giving livestock and trinkets to the dragon at first. Really, this dragon was not only extorting food, he was extorting trinkets too. What a greedy bastard. And then so it evolved. They ran out of shit to give them, and so they started having to give up, one human a year. This was acceptable to the villagers until a princess was chosen at the next offering. The saint thereupon rescues the princess chosen as the next offering. The narrative was first set in Cappadocia. And so where's Cappadocia? It was a province in the Roman Empire in Anatolia, with its capital of Caesarea. It was established in 1780 by the Emperor Tiberius. Hey, so Tiberius, if you know Tiberius throughout history, or in history, maybe we'll cover that on a different time, but that is a familiar name. Following the death of Cappadocia's only got one last king, and that was Archelaus. I can't say that word. In the earliest sources of the 11th and 12th centuries, but transferred to Libya in the 13th century. Golden Legend. The Golden Legend is a collection of hagiographies by Jacobus de Voragine that was widely read in late medieval Europe. More than 1,000 manuscripts of the text have survived. It was likely compiled. I didn't mean to click on that. It was likely compiled around the years 1259 and between 1259 and 1266. Although the text was added to it over the centuries. Wait. Although the text was added. They added more to the text over the centuries. So they kept adding on to the legend. The narrative has pre-Christian origins, Jason and Medea, Perseus and Andromeda, Typhon, and is recorded in various saints' lives prior to its attribution to St. George specifically. It was particularly attributed to St. Theodore Tiro in the 9th and 10th centuries and was first transferred to St. George in the 11th century. So, like, the title character has changed over the century. So first it was Jason and Medea, then it was Perseus and Andromeda, Typhon, and then so they flipped it and they twisted it to make it Christian. And then so that's how we got to St. George. So now because they wanted it to be like a Christian story instead of like a Greek story, they changed it to a Christian hero. Where was I? So they first transferred it to St. George in the 11th century. The oldest known record of St. George slaying a dragon is found in Gregorian Georgian text of the 11th century. The legend and iconography. That just doesn't sound right. Iconography? The legend and iconography spread rapidly through the Byzantine cultural sphere. In the 12th century, it reached Western Christian tradition still in the 12th century via the Crusades. The Knights of the First Crusade believed that St. George, along with his fellow soldier saints Demetrius, Maurice, and Theodore, had fought alongside them at Antioch and Jerusalem. The legend was popularized in Western tradition in the 13th century based on its Latin versions and the Speculum Historiale, the Speculum Historiale, which was the Dominican. No, that is not what I was. So they're giving me something else. That's not I guess it's a book. And the Golden Legend, which we already talked about. At first limited to the courtly setting of chivalric romance. The legend was popularized in the 13th century and became a favorite literary and pictorial subject in the late Middle Ages and Renaissance, and has become an integral part of Christian traditions related to St. George in both Eastern and Western tradition. So at first they twisted the hero around, and they changed the hero in the story, and it was supposed to be, they were trying to change it to like a story of love. They wanted it to be like a love story. I don't know what the actual legend, you know, they don't have like an account or anything here to read the actual story, but they twisted it to be like a love tale, and then it was popularized once the Renaissance came around, probably plays and songs and poems and all that. And then it became, you know, an integral part of the Christian traditions relating to St. George in both Eastern and Western tradition. So, wow. Holy shit. I wasn't expecting to find much. That was crazy. What a good find. That is super interesting, and I'm really happy that we went down this little rabbit hole on the side. Whew. I'm gonna take a break for just a second and let my brain and my mouth rest for a second. You've never seen a melee solo? What? Onyxia? Oh, are we talking Pokemon? What are we talking? Dragons extorting shit? Dragons in real life? I mean, if you believe Wikipedia. If you believe Wikipedia. I kind of want to read the actual poem, though. Let's see. I want to see if we can find it. Okay, so the origins, pre-Christian predecessors. The iconography of military saints Theodore, George, and Demetrius as horsemen is a direct continuation of the Roman-era Thracian horseman type iconography. The one of the dragon appears to grow out of a serpent, entwining the tree of life on one hand, and with the Draco standard used by late Roman cavalry on the other. The horsemen spearing serpents and boars are widely represented in Roman-era stelae commemorating cavalry soldiers. The carving of Krupak, Serbia, depicts Apollo and Asclepius as Thracian horsemen, shown beside the serpent entwined around the tree. Another stela shows the Dioscuri as Thracian horsemen on either side of the serpent entwined tree, killing a boar with their spears. The development of hagiographical nature of the dragon flight parallels the development of iconography. It draws from pre-Christian dragon myths. The Coptic version of the St. George legend, edited by E.A. Wallace Budge in 1888, estimated by Budge to be based on a source of the 5th or 6th century, names Governor Dadianus, the persecutor of St. George, as the Dragon of the Abyss. Ooh, that sounds metal as fuck. The Dragon of the Abyss. Iconography. Iconography. The Dragon of the Abyss. I love that. A Greek myth with similar elements of the legend is the battle between Bellerophon or Bellerophontes is a hero of Greek mythology. He was the greatest hero and slayer of monsters alongside Cadmus and Perseus before the days of Heracles, and his greatest feat was killing the Chimera, a monster that Homer depicted, which is like a lion. It's like a lion's body with like a lizard tail and like the body of a bear or some shit. It's fucking crazy. Budge makes explicit the parallel to pre-Christian myth. I doubt much of the whole story of St. George is anything more than one of the many versions of the old world story of the conflict between light and darkness, or Ra and Apepi, or Marduk and Tiamat. I think those are from other cultures, other religions, woven up a few slender threads of historical fact. Tiamat, the scaly-winged foul dragon, and Apepi, the powerful enemy of the glorious sun god, were both destroyed and made to perish in the fire, which he sent against them and their friends. And Dadianus, also called the dragon, with his friends, the 69. Nice! The 69 governors! Oh, that's a band name right there. The 69 governors. Was also destroyed by fire called down from the heavens by the prayer of St. George. So St. George prayed to God, and fire came down to destroy the... Wait. So the dragon and his 69 friends were killed by fire that was called down from God by St. George. In anticipation of the St. George iconography, first noted in 1870s, a Coptic stone, Fenestrella, shows a mounted hawk head figure fighting a crocodile, interpreted by the Louvre as Horus killing a metamorphed Setek. Seteka is a god of desert, storms, disorder, violence, and foreigners in ancient Egyptian religion. In ancient Greek, the god's name is given as Seth. Set has had positive role where he accompanies Ra on his bark to repel Apep, the serpent of chaos. 69 governors. Christianized iconography. Okay, so here we go. I think we're getting back into the legend of St. George. Old St. George. Calling down fire from the heavens. Depictions of Christian militant trampling a serpent is found in Christian art of the late 5th century. Iconography of the horseman with spear overcoming evil becomes current in the early medieval period. Iconographic representations of St. Theodore as a dragon slayer are dated as early as the 7th century. Certainly by the early 10th century, the oldest certain depiction of Theodore killing a dragon is Agtamar, dated century 920. Damn. Theodore is reported as having destroyed a dragon near Eucacia, in a legend not younger than the late 9th century. Early depictions of a horseman killing a dragon are unlikely to represent St. George, who in the 10th century was depicted as killing a human figure, not a dragon. The earliest image of St. Theodore as a horseman, named in Latin, is from Vinica, North Macedonia, and if genuine, dates to the 6th or 7th century. Here, Theodore is not slaying a dragon, but holding a Draco standard. One of the Vinica icons also has the oldest representation of St. George with a dragon. Well, I guess they'll tell us when that was here in just a second. George stands besides a cynocephalus. The characteristic of cynocephaly or cynocephalus having the head of a dog or of a jackal is a widely attested mythical phenomenon existing in many different forms and contexts. The literal meaning is cynocephaly is dog-headed. What? That was, and this was, okay, I'm looking ahead to the end of this sentence, and this was in 730. In 730, they were like, oh, dude, there's people just walking around with dog heads. What the fuck? George stands behind, besides the Cynocephalus, the Cynocephalus, there's no comma there. It's saying Saint Christopher is a Cynocephalus, is what it's saying. Stands beside the Cynocephalus Saint Christopher. So a dog-headed Saint Christopher, both saints treading on snakes with human heads. On snakes with human heads! And aiming at their heads with spears. Maguire 1996 has connected the shift from unnamed equestrian heroes used in household magic to the more regulated iconography of named saints to the closer regulation of sacred imagery following the iconoclasm of the 730s. The iconoclasm was the Byzantine iconoclasm. The Byzantine iconoclasm were two periods in the history of the Byzantine Empire when the use of religious images or icons was opposed by religious and imperial authorities within the Orthodox Church and the temporal imperial hierarchy. So, so the I guess the government, right, the empire was against religion, so you weren't allowed to like talk about, you couldn't have like symbols of your faith or anything like that. They were against religion at this point in time, and that was in 730. In the West, in the Carolingian era, depiction of Roman horsemen trampling and piercing a dragon between two soldier saints with lances and shields was put on the foot of a crux gemmata, formerly in the treasury of the Basilica of Saint Servatius in Maastricht. It's been lost since the 18th century. The representation survives in a 17th century drawing. So before it was lost, somebody drew a picture of what it actually looked like, and the picture, the drawing survived, but we don't know where the actual like painting is, I guess. Now in the Bibliothèque Nationale de France in Paris, so it's in like the National Library in Paris. The Christianization of the Thracian horseman iconography can be traced to the Cappadocian cave churches of Gorium, where frescoes of the 10th century show military saints on horseback confronting serpents with 1, 2, or 3 heads. One of the earliest examples is from the church known as the Mavrucan III, generally dated to the 10th century, which portrayed 2 sacred riders confronting 2 serpents twined around a tree in a striking parallel to the Dies Cruae Stela, except the riders are now attacking the stake in the Tree of Life instead of the boar. In this example, at least, there appear to be 2 snakes with separate heads, but other examples of 10th century Cappadocia show polycephalous snakes. So polycephalous were the dog-headed. So now they're dog-headed snakes. Poorly preserved wall painting at the Yalani Kilise, or the Snake Church, that depicts the 2 saints, Theodore and George, attacking a dragon has been tentatively dated to the 10th century, or alternatively even to the mid-9th. Similar example, but showing 3 equestrian saints, Demetrius, Theodore, and George, is from the Zouduchos, the Zouduchos Pigi chapel in central Macedonia in Greece, in the prefecture Koulikos. And Koulikos is one of the regional units of Greece in the geographic region of Macedonia. It's part of the region of the central Macedonia. Its capital is the city of Koulikos. Okay, I feel like that's familiar, and I've heard of that before. Near the modern village of Colchida, dated to the 9th or 10th century. And so this is where we get to the transfer to St. George. The dragon motif was transferred to the George legend from that of his fellow soldier Saint Theodore Tiro. The transfer of the dragon iconography from Theodore and George as Dies Cruae to George on his own first becomes tangible in the 11th century. The oldest certain images of St. George combating serpent are still found in Cappadocia. And then the golden legend, in the well-known version of Jacobus de Voragine, Legend of Aurea, which just talks about the golden legend again. The narrative episode of St. George and the Dragon took place somewhere he called Selene in Libya. Selene in Libya was plagued by a venom-spewing dragon. Here we go. We're finally getting into the actual fucking story and like how this happened and what happened. Fuck George. They're talking about lizard people. No, well, yeah, no. They were talking about dog-headed people. There were people that had dog heads, and I don't know, because he said it was a dog-headed version of Saint Christopher. So I'm wondering if, possibly that was a joke. Like, just as part of the story, that was just like a joke, like a rip at St. Christopher, is like he had a dog head. But later, when they transferred the legend to St. George, instead of snakes with people heads, because that's how it was in the first, or in one of the older iterations, it was snakes with the human faces, which is fucking terrifying. They changed it to the dog headed. So it was like a dog-headed lizard or a dog-headed snake. Imagine like just like dog-headed snakes. They'd be so friendly and obedient. They just look really fucking weird, you know? Dog-headed snakes. But so now we're getting into the Golden Legend itself. What actually happened? What was the tale? So again, and this is Jacobus de Voragines, and I don't know if he wrote it or if that he just took the story and put it into his book. But Selene in Libya was plagued by a venom-spewing dragon dwelling in a nearby pond. So the dragon's hanging out in the pond, poisoning the countryside. To prevent it from affecting the city itself, the people offered it 2 sheep daily, then a man and a sheep, and finally their children and youths chosen by lottery. One time, the lot fell on the king's daughter. Damn! The king offered all his gold and silver to have his daughter spared, but the people refused. So the daughter was sent out to the lake, dressed as a bride, to be fed to the dragon. If the dragon is just going to eat him, why would you dress it up as a bride? Is he going to fuck her and then eat her? Because that sounds terrible. What a horrible thing. Like, seriously, what would the point of the dress be? So at first it was like a Medusa head, if I heard you right. No, it's not a Medusa head. It was just a human head on a snake. It wasn't like a snake person. Imagine the body of a snake with a person's head on it, like a little tiny person's head, a little tiny human head. We can Photoshop something up real quick if I need to. Presentation matters in the culinary arts, Opto. Fine, okay, fair enough, Taylor. All right, so here we go. St. George by chance arrived at the spot, so he just wandered up and had no idea what was going on. He was just like, "Oh, hey, look." The princess tried to send him away, but he vowed to remain. I ain't gonna leave you out here dressed like that, baby. No way. The dragon emerged from the pond while they were conversing. So they're still talking. They're just having a conversation, and the dragon pops up. St. George made the sign of the cross and charged it on horseback, seriously wounding it with his lance. He then called to the princess to throw him her girdle. Yeah, no, it's what you think. A belt, especially of a cord or a rope, is called a girdle if it's worn as part of a Christian liturgical vestments or in certain historical, literary, or sports contexts. So yeah, throw me your girdle, baby. I need that for a second. And he put it around the dragon's neck. When she did so, the dragon followed the girl like a meek beast on a leash. Oh, man. Korn really missed out on some better words for that one song. Meek beast on a leash. The princess and St. George led the dragon back to the city of Selene, where it terrified the populace. So now this, like, instead of being the hero and like saving the girl, now the dragon is like wreaking havoc on the city. St. George offered to kill the dragon if they consented to become Christians and be baptized. Oh, St. George is still willing to kill that dragon. He'll take care of that problem for you that he created for you, but it's going to cost you. I need you to be baptized. 15,000 men, including the king of Selene, converted to Christianity. Damn, that was easy. George then killed the dragon, beheading it with his sword, and the body was carted out of the city on 4 ox carts. Took 4 ox carts to get this dragon out of here. The king built a church to the Blessed Virgin Mary and St. George on the site where the dragon died. And a spring flowed from its altar with water that cured all disease. Oh, wow. Wow, so they built a church in tribute to the Blessed Virgin Mary on the site where the dragon died. So, like, in case the dragon's ghost was going to come back and keep wreaking havoc on the populace, we needed to build a church. We needed to build a church here. So they built a church where the dragon died, and spring flowed from the altar that cured all diseases. So maybe it was a magic dragon. The magic dragon created now this elixir of life. Only the Latin version involves the saint striking the dragon with the spear before killing it with the sword. The Golden Legend narrative is the main source of the story of St. George and the dragon as received in Western Europe, and therefore is relevant for St. George as the patron saint of England. The princess remains unnamed in the Golden Legend version, and the name Sabra is supplied by Elizabethan-era writer Richard Johnson. So, old Dick Johnson
Old Dick Johnson was a British romance writer. All that is known of his biography is from internal evidence in his works. He was a London apprentice in 1590s and a freeman after 1600. Well, we thank you, Dick Johnson, for your work on the 7 champions of Christendom. And in the work, she is recast as the Princess of Egypt. Oh, so now the princess in the story of St. George is the Princess of Egypt. This work takes great liberties with the material, and makes St. George marry Sabra and have English children. So he saves an Egyptian princess, and then they have English children, and one of whom becomes the Guy of Warwick. The Guy of Warwick, or Guy de Waterwick, is a legendary English hero of romance popular in England and France from the 13th or 17th century. The story of Sir Guy is considered by scholars to be part of the matter of England. So one of the children they have just becomes like the ultimate ladies' man. He is just the most debonair dude ever. That's his whole thing. Alternative names given to the prince and Italian sources still of the 13th century are Cleolinda and IE. Not Warwick Davis. We talking about Wicket and Leprechaun. Whew. We are still going strong. So I'm going to need to take another real quick break and get something else to drink. Rest my mouth for a second. While I'm on break, if you guys could do me a solid, I would really appreciate if you guys could type out a little bit of feedback in the chat. Just tell me if you like it. What do you want more of? I promise you, like I said, I had the first half of this the first part of this all planned out and like researched and stuff, and now we're just kind of going with the flow because I don't have a way to tie this into a neat package. Next week, I'm going to try to do a better job of having like a complete timeline. So, well, even if you just got here, just if you like what you've seen so far or while you've been here, let me know. Or if you guys don't like it, or if you guys hated tonight or something, let me know. That way I know what's up and I know how people feel about it. I'm having a lot of fun. I really like this. I enjoy this, and like it's so much information, but I'm learning a lot, and I really I love diving into stuff like this. It's a lot of fun and I enjoy it. And I really hope you guys are enjoying it too. I try to add a little bit of humor in there when I can, or when I think it's going to be funny. And yeah, dude, I hope you guys have had a good time. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna take a quick break and get something to drink, and then we'll come back. And we got about 45 minutes to wrap this up. So we're gonna try to get through it. If somebody could give me a reminder, probably 10 minutes till we can start going over how we get out of the Dark Ages and into the Renaissance, and I'm aiming for that to be our ending point. So much love. I'll be right back. How's it going? I'm back. This time I brought green Gatorade. That is so dope looking. You can see the liquid moving. That's kind of crazy. All right. Anyway, sorry, I'm easily amused. Wait, it sounds like Love Machine? Love Gun? Yes. Roundabout is pretty easy to play on the guitar, surprisingly. Huh. I believe it. I have a new plan. I think we're going to... I kind of want to just talk for a little bit, so I'm going to wrap this up. Let's find... we're going to find... The end of the Dark Ages and the beginning of the Renaissance. We're gonna look at that, and then we're just gonna talk for a little bit, and just hang out, and we'll just talk about the stream, or whatever you guys want to talk about. So let's search the end of the Dark Ages. All right. What caused the end of the Dark Ages? Historians believe that the Dark Ages ended when Constantinople, which was the capital city of the Byzantine Empire, fell to the Ottoman Empire. The city had been under attack for 2 months before it fell to the Ottoman Empire in 1453. Damn, they held their ground for 2 months. That's crazy. It's a I just want the end of it. The end of the Middle Ages day. It's a holiday. Many historians consider May 29th, 1453 to be the date on which the Middle Ages ended. It was on this date that Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, fell to the Ottoman Empire after being under siege for almost 2 months. With the fall of the capital, the Byzantine Empire ended as well. Following the fall, Byzantine scholars left Constantinople and Greek culture began being studied outside of the area of the old empire. Learning based on classical Greek sources such was revived, and it helped bring on the Renaissance. The Middle Ages, sometimes also known as the Dark Ages or the medieval period, began in Europe with the fall of Rome in 476 CE, which is the Common Era. We learned that earlier in this program. Some historians place the start of the Renaissance in the 14th century, but it was spurred on by the fall of the Byzantine Empire in Constantinople. So May 29th, 1453 is also viewed as a dividing point between the two eras. During the Renaissance, the art and culture of ancient Greece and Rome was looked back on and celebrated by writers, artists, and thinkers. They looked at the time after the fall of Rome as the Middle or Dark Age because they thought it was a time without scientific accomplishments, great art, or great leaders. They looked poorly on it and thought people hadn't used their full potential during it. In more recent years, the era has been looked on more favorably. The most powerful institution during the Middle Ages was the Catholic Church, not kings or queens. Great cathedrals were built in Romanesque style and then in Gothic style, and monasteries were built as well. The Islamic world was also growing during this time, and cultural and intellectual life thrived in cities like Cairo, Baghdad, and Damascus. Thousands of books were written there, and important texts of the past were translated into Arabic. Towards the end of the 11th century, the Catholic Church began allowing military expeditions. The Crusades started in 1095 and were an effort to remove Muslim infidels from the Holy Land. They went on periodically until the end of the 15th century, and many on both sides lost their lives. During this time, religious enthusiasm grew, and literature, science, and technology from the Muslim world influenced European life. Trade routes also expanded on the account of the Crusades, and Europe was given access to imported goods like wine, olive oil, and textiles. One of the defining moments of the Middle Ages was the bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death. It killed about 20 million people, 30% of the population of Europe, between 1347 and 1350. Oh, dang. That is insane. Just those numbers just don't make sense to me. That is so many people. It was the worst in cities where it was easily transmitted from one person to another. Feudalism dominated the rural areas during the Middle Ages. Kings granted large tracts of land called fiefs, to noblemen and bishops, and peasants without land, called serfs, did most of the work on the fiefs. So serfs were doing all the work on the fiefs. Serfs were able to live on the land and were guaranteed protection. Farming became more productive and efficient in the 11th century due to innovations, so fewer workers were needed to produce the food. The result of this was population growth and the movement of more people to towns and cities. Afterwards, port cities began thriving because of commerce, and they experienced a rebirth, being at the forefront of the Renaissance. The fall of Constantinople took place on today's date in 1453. In the 12th century, there were around 400,000 inhabitants in the city. On account of many sieges, its population dwindled between 40,000 and 50,000 inhabitants by the 1450s. Byzantine power also diminished at the time after fights with the Catholic Church and the Balkan neighbors. By the second half of the 14th century, Ottoman Turks controlled most of the Balkans and Anatolia. I'll show you my port. Hey, I was the only one who added suggestions but not feedback. I misunderstood the assignment. I misunderstood the assignment. Look up Oversimplified on YouTube if you want to run down on Prohibition. It's not super in-depth. Oh, awesome, Simon. That sounds awesome. I definitely want to look in that. I didn't see. I just want to love to hear about. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just like suggestions on what stuff you want to hear later on. Now that you've told me that, I'm going to have you guys vote on it for next week, and I will definitely put that in the vote. If you want topics, just drop them in general in the Discord. We have a Discord. That's one of the things I was going to talk about. We have a Discord. If you're not in our Discord, you should be in our Discord. Why is it that's not? Oh, because it says Discord. It's supposed to say Discord. Excuse me. There it is. And I need to change the name. It's no longer Opto's Fantasy Barbecue. It is the future. Whew. All right. So, by the second half of the 14th century, Ottoman Turks controlled most of the Balkans and Anatolia. In 1452, Ottoman leader Sultan Mehmed II Fatih made peace treaties with Hungary and Venice and began constructing a fortress at Bosporus, the strait in Turkey at the Black Sea and Sea of Marmara, so that he could restrict passage between the Black Mediterranean seas. Mehmed then asked for cannons from Urban, a Hungarian gunsmith. They were brought to Edirne, the Ottoman capital, which was not too far from Constantinople. In March 1853, the following month, after Byzantine settlements on the coast of the Black Sea and the Sea Marmara were taken over, the cannons were moved outside of the city. Ottoman regiments arrived from Rumelia and Anatolia, and their fleet came from Gallipoli, landed in Diplokionion. At the time, Byzantine Emperor Constantine the 11th, Pelagius, requested help. Although some he asked refused, support came from Venice and Genoa. Being surrounded by both land and sea, Constantinople was under siege for 50 days, with the city walls facing a constant onslaught of cannon fire. The walls had a double line of ramparts with a moat outside of them. The taller wall was 40 feet high, with a base that reached 16 feet width. There also was a 20 feet tall sea wall. There was a 20-foot tall sea wall that went across the Golden Horn and Sea of Marmara, designed to prevent a naval assault. Constantinople only had 6,000 or 7,000 trained soldiers, although 30,000 to 35,000 civilians were also armed. They also had a small fleet of ships in the Golden Horn. In contrast, the Ottomans had 60,000 to 80,000 land soldiers and 69 cannons. 69! Why does that number keep popping up throughout history? I love it. Nice. They also had 31 large and mid-sized warships and 100 smaller boats and transport at the Diplokionion. On April 6th, the artillery barrage began. The city was eventually encircled. Over the following weeks, the cannons breached the walls at the spots, but the breaches weren't wide enough to send troops through, and the Byzantines continued to repair them at night. Early on the morning of May 29th, Ottomans commenced artillery, infantry, and naval assault on the city. They tried to rush the gate of the St. Romanus and walls at the Blachura sector.
Thank you!
Dude, thanks so much for 69 pities. Like, seriously. Oh. It's not supposed to do that. What did I just do? What the fuck just happened? I am so confused right now. I don't... I'm swear I'm trying to find. I'm just trying to get back to my screen here. There we go.
Oh shit! Here we go again.
That's not the one. That's still not the one that I wanted. That's it. That was it. That's the one. That's the one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Cybon. I appreciate it. Damn, that was a crazy FBI raid. Oh my god, dude. All right. So, where were we? They tried to rush this. I don't know what voice I was doing anymore. They tried to rush the gate of Saint Romanus and the walls of the Blackernay. Is that Blachernay? Blachame? Is that an M or is that an R and an N? I can't tell. The Blachame sector, 2 areas that had been damaged in previous barrages, but they found resistance and had to fall back. And another attack on the gate, and its inner wall was taken. Fighters that had come from Genoa and Venice to assist the Byzantines retreated to ships in the Golden Horn. After securing the city, Mehmed rode through it to the Cathedral of Hagia Sophia. No pop-up window on that? Yeah, nothing? Nothing? Okay. The largest cathedral in Christendom, and converted it into a mosque, Hagia Sophia. Afterwards, Mehmed II moved his capital to the city from Edirne, and the city became home to the people of many backgrounds and faiths. Greeks left for Italy, which many historians say marked the end of the Middle Ages and the beginning of the Renaissance. Thus, we view May 29th as the end of the Middle Ages Day. And that, ladies and gentlemen... That's not the one I wanted. That's the one. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the Dark Ages. No, they have pictures. They have pictures, but they're like pages of different buttons, and so I get confused sometimes. And then sometimes I'm hamming it up for comedy. But like if I say I'm like lost and I'm trying to find something and I can't find it, usually I can't find it. Hold on, I got to do a better take for the YouTube channel. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the Dark Ages and the beginning of the Renaissance. There we go. So that was it. First episode. Opto explains it all. In the bag. What did you guys think? How did everybody feel about it? How's everybody feeling? How's everybody doing? You love history and love this? Nice. Thank you so much, Simon. I really appreciate it. So, thought now would be a good time since it's the end. It's the end. Being the end of the stream, this is a good time to like advertise and like hawk all my stuff, everything I got going on. So for those of you that are new to the stream, or you know have even if you've been here for a while, I am a content creator. Hi, my name's Optometron. I love doing this stuff. I got some stuff going on right now. We have a GoFundMe set up. I am trying to replace my shitty laptop right now. I can't render videos with it anymore. It's got a 1050 Ti in it. It's like over half a decade old. The thing is just, I can't use it anymore. I work a retail job 40 hours a week and I have a lot of downtime while I'm there. And so I really try to capitalize on that downtime and just try to get work done and make stuff. Make my silly videos and my TikToks and everything else like that. And so I'm trying to replace that. It's not anything like I have to have. It just would make things a lot easier for me to keep making stuff and to keep this progressing. It'd make it easier for me to do research, to do more of these episodes, and to do more Opto Explains It All stuff. So if you do have anything to donate, there's the link right there. I definitely appreciate it. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Again, this is not necessary. Please don't let anybody feel obligated, but it is there if you would like to help support the stream and help support me doing more stuff like this. I had a lot of fun tonight. This is one of my favorite things to do, and I love the learning aspect of it, and getting into history and talking about this stuff. Every time I say, like, that's something that's important you should remember, like, I really, from the heart, I mean that. A lot of the stuff is important, and I feel like it's important to talk about history and to remember this stuff, and to, like, try and remember how shitty things were back then, and, like, stuff that happened, you know, moving forward in civilization, you know, unless you remember the past, you're doomed to, you know, to repeat it. And so I think education, especially as an adult, I'm never going to go back to college, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to happen, but to further my knowledge and continue my search for knowledge, my quench that thirst of knowledge is really nice. So I appreciate you guys being here for that, and I really hope that you guys learned something and that you guys had a good time. Other stuff I got going on, I think, just because of the way the days fell, I think tomorrow might be my next stream. I'm not exactly sure when. My schedule is going to flip-flop at work every week, and every other week I'll have 3 days off in a row. And so I think tomorrow, my days off this week are going to be Monday, Thursday, and Friday. So my streams are probably going to be on those days. So that means I have until Friday to come up with the next episode of Opto Explains It All. I want more production value in the future, and I want to keep building and adding on to this. I would like to be able to do more camera tricks and, like, have more cited works queued up and ready to go for the history portions. When I put this on YouTube, I want to go through and have all the different Wikipedia links and everything ready, so people can click on that and see where we got this information from if they want to do some research on their own. Tomorrow's probably going to be a retro game, probably more Metroid Dread. I'm probably going to play some more Metroid Dread tomorrow. Thursday, I'll probably play more Elden Ring. And then Friday is going to be another episode of Opto Explains It All. We need to vote on a topic quick. I got to get a topic quick so I can start getting research ready and have, you know, everything more put together. I think that's about it. Other shameless promos. If you look at my About section, I've got some new extension panels in my About section on Twitch. We've got it there. There's an Amazon wish list on there. There's a regular donate panel, and then I'm going to be adding more stuff. Like, I want to add, like, an actual biography, like, kind of who I am and my family and what we're doing and stuff. And I think I do want to. I think my YouTube link's already on there, but yeah. So I'll trim all this up, and if you just got here and missed any of this, we'll put the whole thing, the whole shebang on YouTube. I need some time to get that edited. Again, my laptop is shot, so I can't do anything with my laptop at work. So I'll have to find time when I'm at home to edit that and get it ready. But I'll do it. Until then, we're going to find somebody to raid Salem. What's Salem? On Salem, like the Salem witch trials and stuff. Ooh, I do like that. The link for the Discord's in here. Let me hit that Discord link one more time. I know you're already a part of it, Sugar, but if you're in the Discord, drop in general what you want the topic to be, so I can set it up and have a vote. When is the next episode vote? I will get it up. I want to give everybody a chance to post their suggestion. So we'll say tomorrow morning, everybody gets tonight, think of a topic, post a topic tonight. We'll start voting on it. Let me know. Just talk about it in general in the Discord, and I'll be in there momentarily. We got to find somebody to raid, though. Let's find someone to raid. We never put any music back on. How long have I been talking with no music? It has to have been like quite a long time. Failed to load. What is happening? What is happening? Stop looking up my nose. What did I say about that earlier tonight? Don't look up my nose, weirdos. I can't help but look up because I have to look at my other monitor. What? Oh my god. Oh my god. Please don't do that. As soon as I muted the video window, it like refreshed to start playing again. You can't trick me. I'm so sorry, guys. I should have had this ready to go. You know what? Mikey's on. He's playing some Super Mario World, and me and him, not together, but we're both being interviewed for the Mario podcast next month, and so we're gonna hop over to Mike and show some love. He's a good dude, and he's an amazing, just Mario player in general. He is insane in Mario Maker, and he's even better at any Super Mario World ROM hacks. So we're gonna raid into Mike, and we're gonna show Mike some love, and use that new raid emote if you got it. Mikey, I'm making sure I spell it right. But I love you guys, and y'all have a good night. Remember to use those raid emotes. Drop a follow for Mike if you would, and I will see you guys on the flipper. 残酷な天使